In this video, I will demonstrate how to perform Spearman's rank order correlation in SPSS. For the purpose of this exercise, we will use an example of the following study. Researcher investigated if there was a relationship between the self-reported levels of creativity and creative problem-solving task. In addition, time it took participants to complete their creative problem-solving task was recorded, and in total we have data from 14 participants. So each participant provided 3 observations: creativity score, the score on the problem-solving task, and the time it took them to complete the problem-solving task. To enter this data into SPSS, you can enter it in a row. So for each row, you have the story about the participant, and you need to make sure that you assign a proper level to each of the variables. Those are the 3 variables we will look at when analyzing data. Firstly, we need to look at linearity within the data. To do that, we'll use a graph menu. So go to the graph chart builder, okay, and the menu will open. So we want to plot a scatter plot. So we'll go for the simple one, drag it to the gallery, and we'll first place creativity and problem solving into our graph. When done, press OK and wait for SPSS to compute it. On Max, SPSS known to be a bit slower. So here is our first scatter plot. So we have pretty much linear relationship between all the dots. So each dot represents a participant. Now we want to do the same with the time and see how the 2 variables also relate to time. So if we'll go to graphs, chart builder, okay, and let's say we'll replace creativity with the time, okay. And in here we also have a linear relationship between the dots, so they kind of fall on a line. And the last graph we need to do is to look at the time and creativity. So we'll replace problem solving with creativity and press OK. And here is our last graph. And yeah, so we have one person who potentially is an outlier, and then again somewhat a linear relationship between the 2 variables. So overall we're happy the assumption of linearity is met. The next thing we need to compute is the descriptive statistics. For this example, because we have somewhat outlier in there, and we don't really worry about the distribution of the variables, so we would perform a Spearman rank order correlation. Regardless of which correlation you use, you always need to report descriptive statistics, and for continuous variables that would be means and standard deviations. So we place all our variables into the variable box, and it's in the descriptives menu, and press OK. And here is our table of descriptive statistics. So we have minimum and maximums, our means and standard deviation. So this is the information that will need to be reported in the table. in the results section. Now we can proceed to computing the actual Spearman correlation. So if you go to Analyze, Correlate, and Bivariate, the Bivariate correlation option will open. So deselect the Pearson and select Spearman. And then all the variables we're interested in, we'll just place them in the variables box. We are not specifying the direction of the relationship, so therefore we'll keep it as a two-tailed test, and flag the significant correlations by little stars. We'll also keep that one. So just press OK. So here is our correlation output. So how to read this output? So basically, we have our variable for creativity, problem solving, and time, and variable for creativity, problem solving, and time. So creativity correlates with creativity as 1. This is the perfect correlation. The same goes for problem solving with problem solving and time with time. The two sides of the table that are separated by this value of 1 are mirror images of each other. So you either use the bottom side of the table, this part, or you can use the top side of the table to read your output. So what can we see from here is, let's say, how correlation relates to problem solving. So we drag the variable in here, so creativity and problem solving. And here we have our correlation coefficient of 0.644, and it is significant. We also can look at the relationship between creativity and time. So we'll go down to creativity and time, and we see our correlation coefficient, which doesn't have a star, and it is not significant. So for each correlation coefficient, we have the accompanying significance value and the number of participants used to compute the correlation coefficient. And this setup of these three values is always present in SPSS output for correlations. So what we can conclude that creativity significantly and strongly correlates with problem solving. Creativity does not have a relationship with time, nor does the creative problem solving has a relationship with time. So only one correlation coefficient was significant. To report the output in SPSS, to report the output in your research report, you will need to create a table. When you only correlate two variables, you can report it in a text format. If you report correlation between 3 bivariate observation, 4 bivariate observation, and so on, it's easier to report it in the table. So you will need to use these values, correlation coefficients, in the construction of the table. But in terms of the interpretation of results and performing the Spearman rank order correlation in SPSS, these are all the steps.